Welcome to Friday Fuel for September 1st, 2023. Here are a few announcements about what's going on at the Wesley Foundation. Join us Sunday morning at 10 for coffee and chats before we head next door for worship at 11. And come back Sunday night at 5:30 for Sunday supper and movie night because it's a holiday weekend and there's no classes Monday. Let's hang out and watch a movie. Next Wednesday, join us at 8:30 for WOW, Wesley on Wednesday nights. And if you're available on Saturday, September 16th, the Special Olympics Family Festival is looking for more volunteers to be a friend for a day of a Special Olympics athlete. You can see the website on this slide to volunteer to serve as part of Special Olympics Family Festival. And now, here's some fuel for your Friday. So, as the school year has started off, and it's a new beginning, we've been talking about new beginnings on Wednesday nights. And one thing that I think is really interesting of what we know about the early church, when the church began, as it's told in the book of Acts, is that not everything that the early church did was successful. And so today I want to talk a little bit about failure. That's something that we usually tend to avoid talking about sometimes in the church, but especially, in the college setting. We want everyone to succeed all the time. And yet we know that we don't always succeed. And so this Wednesday, we read from Acts chapter 2, 42 through 47. And it says, the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the community, to their shared meals, and to their prayers. A sense of awe came over everyone. God performed many wonders and signs through the apostles. All the believers were united and shared everything. They would sell pieces of property and possessions and distribute the proceeds to everyone who needed them. Every day they met together in the temple and ate in their homes. They shared food with gladness and simplicity. They praised God and demonstrated God's goodness to everyone. The Lord added daily to the community those who were being saved. Now, this portrait of the church comes to us not long after Pentecost. Pentecost is reported at the beginning of chapter 2, and this is the end of chapter 2 of Acts. And so if we're to read this, and only this portion telling us about how things were in the early church, it sounds like everything was perfect, and it was great. And sometimes we want to think of the church that way. Sometimes we want to think of whatever our community is as being that way. Like, we want to find that perfect place where everyone gets along and people take care of each other and everyone's focused on worshiping God and listening to the teachings that the leaders share. And sometimes we're disappointed that we can't seem to find that church. But I think what we learn in the rest of the book of Acts is that there are moments where the church just failed. There are moments where people didn't have everyone else's interests in mind. We could skip over to Acts chapter 5 and read about Ananias and Sapphira, who don't share all the proceeds of a sale of property like they're supposed to. And there are lots of times throughout the stories of Acts that things don't go right. And sometimes that the church fails. And so as we are beginning this new school year, and there's a lot of excitement, it's always exciting to start fresh and to feel like so much is possible. It's also important to remember that along the way, we might experience failure, but that doesn't mean it's just the end of things. We know from all sorts of times in Scripture that God's people have always failed, and yet God is constant in loving us, and that we can be persistent in trying again. So whether you are a student or not, remember that failure happens, and it can be discouraging. It can disrupt the progress that we think we're making. It can be upsetting even. But we know that it's not the end. Failing at something doesn't mean we're done for good. The church has never gotten it all right, and yet here the church still is. And so we can be the church. We can try new things. We can do what seems to be where God is leading us. And sometimes we might get it wrong, but that's okay. So this semester, I am asking students to think about what they want the church to be and to do through the Wesley Foundation. And there's going to be a QR code at the end of this video where you can fill out some questions or answer some questions about what you want the church to do and to be as we begin this new semester, knowing that sometimes we'll find ideas that are exciting. Sometimes we'll do things we've done in the past because those were also great ways for us to learn and to grow and to share God's love. And sometimes we might try something that just doesn't work, but that's okay. Because God is constant and God is with us, and we can keep trying to be faithful. So that is a word to hopefully keep you moving forward. Sometimes we get a little bit off track, or we feel like we have a little bit of a setback, and yet God is with us and failure happens, but we can try again. So I'm thankful for that, and I hope that you are as well, and I'll see you back here next Friday for more Friday Fuel. Bye.